Okay, this is James Graham, and we are recording for the Ease of Spirit discussion group today. And our topic is going to be gratitude and forgiveness. And we're going to start like we always start with prayer. So what I'd like everybody to do at this time is just to take a little bit of a breath. Just take a deep cleansing breath. And breathe in, knowing you're breathing in the very breath of life, breath of God, and exhale. And Father, we come to you grateful tonight. Grateful for the information that we have. Grateful for just being here together, of like mind and of like purpose on this day. We thank you for this day. And we thank you for all that are here and all that are on their way and all who would like to be on their way, but for one reason or another are not able to make it. This is a day that we are going to celebrate the idea of your abundance with gratitude. And we're going to work on the idea of forgiveness in order to open ourselves up to that abundance. So we thank you, Father, for this plan, this idea, and this medium for which we can exchange these ideas. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. So how is everyone?
Great.
Good and very good.
Can I use your
Hi there.
phone?
Yes, you
Blessed.
can. Hello, Reverend May. How are you, dear?
I'm finally on.
All right. You know, we sent the
Good
invitations
evening.
out a little bit early. That may have thrown some people off, but that's okay. I learned my lesson. I won't do that anymore. I've always been on Andre about not sending them out early, and it turns out she was right. You know, and don't you ladies say she's always right, because I don't really need to hear that.
I almost said again.
You know what? You spoke the word, Reverend. You spoke the word.
I spoke it. Yeah, I did.
You spoke
Well,
the word.
yeah, but you know, we're going to work with the idea of gratitude and forgiveness. Dan, you have the daily inspiration there.
Yes, I do.
Would you read that for us, please?
Thursday, October 24th, 2019. I am whole.
Yes.
Whenever I observe any symptoms of disease in my body, I remind myself that my body is the temple of the living God. In God's temple, there can be no disease. There is only wholeness. Symptoms of illness appear because I have separated myself in consciousness from the wholeness that I am in my spiritual nature. The Spirit of God in me knows nothing of disease and is therefore permanently perfect, whole, and complete. This is the truth I affirm when symptoms appear. The life of God is my life. It renews and revitalizes my entire being, restoring my awareness of my innate wholeness. I give thanks that it is already done, and the manifestation is not, if not instant, will certainly appear in divine time and order. My role is to believe and hold steadfastly to the truth with spiritually. I am always and permanently whole. Colossians 2:10, our own completeness is now found in Him. We are completely filled with God, and so it is.
So it is.
And so it is.
So the idea is to be completely filled with God. All right? Any thoughts about that inspiration? We're getting real bad feedback from you being there, Andrea.
Does that make it better? No.
Yeah, it does.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay. No thoughts on that daily inspiration, because it is so appropriate for what we're going to cover tonight with gratitude and forgiveness.
That did not help it because you are echoing.
We're getting a real bad echo. Yeah. Well,
No,
Andrea's
yeah,
sitting right across the room from me with her phone, and no. Are you still getting that echo?
Say something so we can hear you.
Are you still getting the echo?
It delayed a little bit, but just keep trying and we'll see.
Okay.
I'm going to move out.
Yeah, you're gonna have to move into the other into the other room. Whenever you have two devices in the same room, you get feedback from one to the other, and you end up with an echo. And I know my wife likes to sit in my rocking chair over there, which she can't do now, and I'm endlessly happy about that because I don't like anyone sitting in my chair. And
hang out.
and for that, I have an attitude of gratitude.
I can hang out.
Yeah, I know you can. I know you can. So this is the month of zeal, October, and it's almost over. It's followed by the month of renunciation, which is also another word for that is release or elimination. And we have something kind of big, I think. Big things are coming our way as a group. And so in order to prepare ourselves for that as a group, I started to look, and I've been kind of focusing and meditating and thinking about a lot of things that have been going on. And I think what we need to do right now, we're all filled with zeal and excitement, but I think that we have to look back and see if there's some things that we need to clear the air and get rid of. Some things that we need to eliminate in order that we can better express God's abundance and better be able to receive God's abundance. Okay, so it just occurred to me that I wanted to go and do a little something dealing with the idea of gratitude and forgiveness. Now, gratitude and forgiveness are the two most powerful tools in any spiritual process, spiritual healing process. Now, you start off with, the fact that we all are carrying a lot of baggage with us. We got wounds that have been inflicted on us, all of us, over the course of living a lifetime. There are things that have happened to us deep in our subconscious that have left many of us, whether we realize it or not, feeling a little bit of shame sometimes, a little guilt, a little blame, even some self-hatred. And in order to turn that around and take a journey toward love and acceptance and self-esteem, it's going to take courage, strength, and faith. And it also is going to take gratitude and forgiveness. And I don't believe you can have one without the other. Okay? So let me ask you a question. As a group, if you want to unmute yourselves, or I can unmute you, I guess. What is the difference between gratitude and being thankful? Any answers, any thoughts about that? The difference between gratitude and being thankful.
I don't know. For me, gratitude is something I rest in daily. Thankful is different things that I may be thankful for.
I can't get these open.
Different occurrences or things that happen.
I can't get it open.
But gratitude, I just stay in gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? We're trying to unmute you, or you can unmute yourselves if you can.
And gratitude is something that spiritually, gratitude for me seems like it's something that's spiritually deeper within. And like Dan said, hi, my friend, but being thankful is something that, you kind of, for me, I kind of find myself being thankful, but my spirit stays in gratitude for the good, bad, and the different all the time.
That is so good. That is so good. I think that the idea, I look at it like this, and I'm going to read it out of the Revealing Word, because this is the spiritual way of defining it. And it says, gratitude and thanksgiving are both necessary in demonstrating prosperity through divine law. Be grateful to God and thankful to the friends whom he uses to supply you. All metaphysicians have found by experience that being thankful for what they have increases the inflow. Gratitude is a great mind magnet. And when it's expressed from the spiritual standpoint, it is powerfully augmented. The saying of grace at the table has its origins in the idea of the power of increase through giving thanks. Okay, so according to the revealing word, you know, you will have gratitude toward God, and you would be thankful to people who do something for you. And, you know, I thought about that. And to me, it's kind of like if you were coming into a building with a bunch of groceries under your arm and someone held the door, you'd be thankful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, thanks for holding the door, man, you know. But if your brother gives you a kidney, literally risking his life so that you can live, you know, that might be something that you have deep gratitude for. And, you know, I think we all go around in life looking for gratitude from people. And we get disappointed when all we get is thanks. You do something and some.
When
Go
you
ahead.
speak of your brother giving you a kidney, you're thankful, but you're grateful because you can live with just one. And
Well, I understand.
that would be the difference there for me.
Okay.
I would be so thankful to him for doing it, but I rest in gratitude because if it wasn't for God, we couldn't live without one kidney.
Right. Well, I tried to use that to kind of give a difference as far as the depth of what it would be, if you can see what I'm saying. You know, our kids are raised nowadays. Now, children today, they're kind of used to getting a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll say thanks, maybe. Sometimes they don't say thanks because they expect it. But, you know, as parents, we were around saying, well, why aren't they really grateful? Why aren't they grateful? Because this is what they expect. They don't have that deep inner feeling because this is what they've been getting all their life. Now, when we grew up, if you weren't grateful, your parents told you you weren't grateful. As a matter of fact, they made a big deal. You know, I remember my parents always saying, you know, I don't have to do this. Anytime they did almost anything, well, you know, I don't have to do this. And they would tell you, you better be grateful, you better be thankful. And so you grew up with an attitude where you were grateful. You know, they made it sound like, you know, if you wasted the last bit of milk in the refrigerator, you committed a capital offense. So you became grateful for everything you had and everything you got. It was a completely different dynamic as to what it is now. So, like I said, as the fact that most of us are boomers, or if not older in this group, we're looking from a perspective of gratitude. We're always seeking out gratitude. Whereas, should we just be happy with the idea of someone saying thanks? Because gratitude really belongs to God, I think.
Sam, may I say something here?
Sure.
Okay, I was thinking too about, you know, when we go through life day after day, doing things for people and they doing things for us. And to me, that's, you know, you're saying thank you. You're always saying thank you for whatever. And to me, the difference between giving thanks and gratitude is the degree of realization. You know, gratitude to me is the whole tree, and thanks for those branches on it. Wow. So I just think gratitude covers it all and is deeper and more spiritual.
I like that. That's very good. Very good. Very good. You know, I'm going to tell you, I had a boss once, and I refer to this guy a lot of times because we were really close at one point. And I was top sales guy. And this guy, I'm going to tell you, he would do things for me. Like at the end of the month, I found out that there was a contest going on. And he would give me tickets to go to a resort somewhere. My wife and I would go to resorts. We'd go
He do all kind of
all
stuff.
kind of stuff. Ruth Chris, he give us $100 gift certificates to go out to eat. You know, all kind of things. And then sometimes he would just tell us to come out to Sawmill Creek or Pudding Bay where he had his boat, and he'd take my wife and I out and wine and dine us. If we tried to spend any money, he would get upset. And, you know, I never really felt like gratitude. I mean, thanks, you know, like, thanks, Jeff. You know, you don't have to do this. I appreciate it, you know, but I never really felt like gratitude. I didn't, as I'm looking at what gratitude is, as I'm coming to understand better what gratitude actually is, you know, I guess I didn't really have gratitude. It was more of a situation where I felt like a thank you kind of thing, you know, and like our kids, I say, you know, they don't demonstrate that gratitude. They will say thank you, thanks, Dad, you know. That's about all you get. You don't get that, oh my God, oh, whoa, you know. Even at Christmas, they don't seem to get that excited. Never did.
No, they
never got excited, you know. Yeah,
they would get excited. What are you talking about? The babies?
Not quite as like you might expect.
When
because
they would wake up,
they expected those things.
I got a video that shows you.
Well, we can do that. Okay, now, again, in order to employ gratitude, it's going to take practicing the concept. And in order to do that, we're going to have to be grateful for everything that comes in our lives. We have to be grateful for the annoyances, the frustrations, the pain, the anger, the disappointment, sadness. With just as much soulful acceptance as we are grateful of joy and love and the delight that we achieve. As soon as we can review a situation from a place of gratitude, all the drama and chaos melts away into acceptance, and only from a place of agape love, can we begin to work on forgiveness. So in order to be able to truly forgive, we've got to be able to accept everything in life with gratitude. That's a little bit tough to do. You know, even the hurt, even the pain, even the sadness, you've got to accept that with gratitude. Thank you, sir, may I have another. You know, you got to be willing to accept it. Forgiveness gets tangled up with the ego. One's need to be right, or one needs to seek justice or revenge. You know, remember we just talked about the ego. The ego always wants to make you be a victim, correct? But we're not going in for that. Here in the book, it says what forgiveness. Where's the forgiveness? Forgiveness, it states, a process of giving up the false for the true, erasing sin and error from the mind and body. It is done. I can hardly read that. Yeah, why don't you read that, Audrey? I can't read that small print.
A process of giving up the false for the true, erasing sin and error from the mind and body. It is closely related to repentance, which is turning from belief in sin to belief in God and righteousness. A sin is forgiven when one ceases to sin, and true forgiveness is only established through the renewing the mind and body with thoughts and words of truth. Forgiveness really means the giving up of something. When you forgive yourself, you cease doing the things that you should not do. And Jesus said that man has power to forgive sin. Sin is the falling short of divine law, and repentance and forgiveness are the only means that man has of getting out of sin and its effects and coming into harmony with the law. It is through forgiveness that true spiritual healing is accomplished. Forgiveness removes the errors of the mind, and bodily harmony results in consonance with divine law.
Thank you. I won't need it after this. So, That was a mouthful, but
It
basically,
was more.
yeah, I know it goes on. It's a very long paragraph. But the idea of forgiveness is you are giving up the negative aspects in order to be able to better accept the abundance in your life, right? And it says forgiveness carries a load of dramatic religious baggage.
Wow.
Dramatic religious baggage. We people often think that it's something beyond our spiritual capabilities to forgive. You know, it's easy to say, well, yeah, I forgive you, but did you really? Did you really forgive? I just had a 30-year relationship, which is looks like it's come to an end, an acrimonious end at that. And I tell myself that I'm able to forgive that. I've dedicated 30 years of my life to something, and I won't say someone, but I told myself I could walk away from that and not have any acrimony in my heart. That was not true, because just the mention makes me feel a certain kind of way, as it does anybody who's really honest about that situation, you know, because it's a fresh wound. And it is not, in fact, something that you can just easily put to the side. But it is vital to our spiritual health and growth that we do forgive and get by that. We must free ourselves from the preconceived notions that we can't forgive. You know, people say, I'll forgive, but I won't forget. You find that you're able to forgive and still remember? Are you able to divorce yourself from the memory and still be able to forget?
Hello?
Yes.
You know, I went through this, you know, in obtaining my most desired goal of that certificate in self mastership through all those teachings. And
Who is that? Who's
there, this Sadiqa at
Hey!
LCC.
Go on, Sadiqa. I'm so glad to hear
Oh
you.
man,
I'm sorry.
I'm telling you, I'm a soldier now, for real. And all that trauma I experienced, you know, I've been on sorority lines where people purposely harass you, and so I was kind of equipped for it, but I knew that I had something great to do in it. So the more resistance came in front of me, the more I was like, I'm gonna move through this thing. I'm gonna use these principles, and I'm gonna treat it in love. Sometimes I just had to, like, you know, y'all know, man. I mean, but it was always something there. We're gonna have 24-hour prayer. How many hours you gonna take, Sadiqa? You know, it's like, it always gave me an opportunity to come up out of it. Once I started becoming acquainted with the principle of forgiveness, I was like John the Baptist with the signs, and I'm gonna have a forgiveness campaign, and I'm then going out recruiting veterans to come in. I think that's it, y'all. I think we can move out of victimhood, because I'm very much, I know, because I've been skillfully trained how to be a victim.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think we work harder.
I got that job. I got it down. But I'm gonna tell you something. You can forgive. At least I can only tell you from my experience. I like when I went back there, all that stuff was going on. I laugh at it now. It's funny. I didn't forget, but I did forget the details of how the emotion, I was no longer, the emotion to that was gone. I can still remember.
Yes.
But the emotion, when I think of the emotion, I laugh at it because I was like, it took all of that for me to be able to look at that and say, that was nothing outside of me. That was all going on in me. I had to come to that realization.
Yes,
Nobody was
yes.
doing anything so I can forgive all those people and those situations that came up that was quite embarrassing. And it was quite irritating too. I can feel those things in the sense of the reflection of it, but for me to sit in that, I can't sit in that because I'm in a whole different mindset.
Yes.
In my being. But I'm gonna tell you something. That was my spiritual department, and it was hard for me to detach. I had Divine Mother Johnny Coleman. I had her saying, bless the channels that come into your life as you bless the channels that go out your life.
Come on.
And
Yes.
that gave me relief to know that don't get attached to none of this stuff. Don't get attached to anything of this. This is a channel that has come into your life, and let it go. But for me to let it go was like, a part of me was like, I've been wounded, I've been hurt. My ego has been stamped on. I've been disrespected, and it's like, oh man, I'm not giving up. Ain't nobody gonna put me out of where I wanna be. Ain't nobody gonna take away my ability to stand up for what I know is right. Why should I have to leave? All of that.
Yep.
All of that was the telling my story, which is important, but I believe Johnny Coleman and her message of letting go of these channels that no longer can serve us. Let's just let it go.
Yes.
Let's see what happens.
Yes.
It's scary though.
Go ahead,
it's scary.
Adika, I just had to step in because you really spoke what I was going to say. You can forgive. And even though you have to say forgive and forget, it's a little misleading because you're going to have some memories. It would have to be totally erased from memories for you to totally forget it. But what you do forget is the sting of it. It no longer has an emotional sting on you anymore. You're no longer in bondage to it.
Right.
So there you go. And I'm glad you found that, little sister. I'm glad you found
that. Is the oh my God, Sadiqa, we missed you so much. That was such a wonderful answer. Thank you, dear. Thank you, dear. Thank you, dear. That was wonderful.
This is Teddy. I want to say something on what Sadiqa just finished speaking on, and that is, and like Reverend Andrea said, we really don't forget, but I think the anointing of the Holy Spirit and the realization of us being transformed in the mind of and consciousness of Jesus, the Christ, the purification comes, and that all that we felt disappears, and it brings about a new revelation of what we see for the hurt feelings and the healing process. It's almost like when you get a cut, a deep cut with stitches, you always have that wound there, but it's healed. And you can go back to the story, how it happened to you and all that. But when it was happening to you, you was crying, boo-hooing, going to emergency room, trying to get it, get everything in order for your skin to heal. And I can say I moved through the same realization as what she has expressed. And it's nothing about anybody else. It's coming to really assess yourself and what you're allowing. I'll go back to the ego to put into your mind, and you really believe it, and move from there, accepting it, and move through some of your decisions like that. Sadiqa, wonderful to hear from you, darling.
Love you.
Bless the channels coming in and the channels coming out.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, now it says we have to free ourselves from preconceived notions in order to experience the profound freedom that comes with forgiving. Forgiveness is tricky
Yes.
because it's like all healing. It has to begin within, like Stadika said. Self-forgiveness is the starting point. We cannot give to others what we have not given to ourselves. We cannot give love if we have self-hate. We cannot give joy if we have self-loathing. We cannot forgive others if we haven't forgiven ourselves. We often believe that forgiveness of certain behavior means that we are giving that behavior validation. If these two things remain connected, forgiveness becomes impossible. We have to separate the two concepts. In other words, you got to separate the emotion that's tied to that behavior that you found harmful. You have to separate that. It's important when it's our own act that we have to forgive. Sometimes you have to forgive yourself. And you have to separate yourself from the act. I love you, but I hate what you did. Does that make sense to anybody?
Well, yes, yes. It's
Not condoning
it's two people talking. Okay.
Go ahead,
Okay, go
Betty.
ahead. Go ahead, Javetti.
I just want to say I agree with that. I mean, it makes sense to have to, in order to move forward in that, in love, you know, you may not want to, but once you realize that, you know, I don't like what you did, but I love you. And I always have to add as God's child so that I can keep it straight. Because other than that, if I keep my humanness in the way, then it won't work.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, this is particularly important for people who are used to taking responsibility, who understand the necessity of responsibility of our actions, because people like that are always harder on themselves than they are on anyone else. We often hold ourselves accountable to a much higher standard. This is not necessarily a bad thing. However, it can become damaging when we are unable to forgive ourselves for what we perceive to be our transactions. Because if you can't forgive yourself, then you truly can't forgive anyone else. Now, what does the group think about that statement? We're not studying from any particular book, Sherry, where these are observations I've taken. I have taken these observations from various books, various places. I've been working on this idea of forgiveness and gratitude for the last week or so. And I'm just putting it out. We're having a discussion on that because we're using this discussion to clear the air and prepare us for what we might, for the blessings that are about to come our way. So it's not necessarily any particular book. So if you guys have any questions about this, feel free to express them. Okay, Sherry?
Thank you so much. Amen.
Okay. And I know you have an excellent story about your title papers.
Yeah,
I think that is so amazing.
That was
how
a testimonial.
Yeah, the testimonial. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it in today, but that was wonderful how you handled that. I think I would have been, I don't know if I could have done what you did for that period of time without really losing it. But what a testimony to your strength. And that's that strength of steadfastness, being able to stay with it, to rely on your principles. She had a situation that took over a month to get title papers, and they were in Georgia, and it was she talked to us about it, and I don't know if she wants to share it or not.
And I would also add a testimony to your grace as well.
Yes.
Yes, I don't mind sharing. Actually, it was 2 months. My birthday was September 3rd. I started like that weekend, and I wanted to get a title because I was coming from Georgia here and bringing that car here.
And I didn't know because I had already changed my address with the finance company, but they never told me, okay, well, you're going to have to, switch everything over and, this is what's going to happen. They never said anything. So what happened was I went to BMV and they just told me, okay, well, you have to get, the title switched over. I thought that me calling the finance company and just getting information off of the automated system was going to be enough. Well, lo and behold, that was the wrong phone number. You'll have to bear with me. My throat is, I'm fighting a cold. But that was the wrong phone number and fax number. So I never realized it was the wrong fax number. It was a while. So I said, okay, well, 3 weeks. And they're telling me, okay, well, just wait. It's going to be all right. It takes a while. And so I decided to just send a handwritten document. So I sent that as well. Lo and behold, I think it ended to October, first week in October. And I'm saying, well, what's going on? On this 30-day tag. Well, they gave me a 45-day tag and told me I could not get another tag. So I told them, okay, that's fine. I hope this is going to work out. So I am all the way past October 16th. I started sending other fax. I decided to go to the DMV and ask them, well, what's really going on? This is the fax number they gave me. I want to send another one. Send another something else because they never got the first fax. And I had no indication they had gotten the letter in hand. So moving into October 2nd week. So they told me, okay, well, they got the letter. They're going to send it out. And I didn't know it was going to Columbus. I don't even know where I picked up that address. Somebody must have given it to me. I picked it up somewhere, but it was a P.O. box to Columbus. They never told me you have to send it to, use the addresses in your city, immediate city, surrounding area. And I sent it to, so I sent it to Columbus. So when I called Columbus said, well, we don't have a P.O. box like that. And we have no idea where it could be. So they told me to call back. Well, all the time I'm calling, it was calling Kia. And I'm thinking, I need to just drive down there. And I know that I could just drive to Georgia and that was fine. But they told me, no, the title company's in Dallas, Texas. So I said, okay, I'm just going to give that because I know I can't drive to Dallas. And I just, kept with it. I went over my aunt's house and I kept getting fax numbers. I had like 7 total. And this one day, I think it was maybe the weekend before my 45-day tag was supposed to expire. We tried like 7 different numbers and none of those numbers would even work. They told me that week, well, I would have to track the title in Columbus. And I told them, well, I have no way of tracking. They gave me a tracking number. When I called Columbus back, they told me, well, this is not even a tracking number. It's usually 12 numbers. This is only 9 numbers. And I'm like, okay, as hard a time as I've been having with Kia, I don't want to call back there. And I tried to be patient. I tried to talk to the supervisor. So that weekend before it was supposed to expire, they finally gave me an unsecured email address. And I'm like, why would y'all wait to give me? I was like, okay, never mind. So I sent it to, I was waiting on it that night. The supervisor never gave it to me that night. So I called back the next day and I had to talk to another supervisor.
Oh my God.
And then I just I said, look, I'm not going to get off this phone until you send it and I make sure that I got that email address. So it came through and I sent the information that while I've been to the BMV, they've been sending out faxes. While the confirmation sheets that I sent fax, trying to send the fax that were failed faxes. So I sent all that through. At the same time, I called the dealer because somebody suggested I call the dealer. And the dealer got involved and she was trying to send it. She was trying to help me. At first she had told me, the week before she told me, no, I can't get involved. And, that's not something we don't do. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you give me a memorandum title before I left there? Or something, but in the state of Georgia, you don't need the memorandum because the company's just right there. And I was already plated when I left out of there with the car. So it wouldn't have been a problem. The problem was me coming from one state to the next state.
Yeah.
And misinformation. Everybody I talked to at Kia, I kept telling them I got bad fax numbers. Will you please pull down that fax number that's on the automated system, because it doesn't work. Nobody, that fax number, I bet you, is still sitting up there. So, and it makes me feel like everybody that's, calling them is getting the misinformation from, going from state to state, because it's there, and they're not pulling it down. I even tried calling Dallas, and they won't give you a phone number. All they give you is an email, and the email, I just felt like, okay, I know how the government works, so I know how these corporations work. It's not going to go to the CEO or CFO or anybody else. They're going to stop it at the secretary and say, okay, well, it's just statistical information. So I'm like, okay, never mind. So finally, what happened was, the reason why I was able to get the title was because, and I remember praying about this too, right from the beginning when I found out I went to Columbus. I prayed about, well, Father, let somebody see that and have the scruples, give them the mindset to send it here to Ohio. Because they told me I would have to track it down. And I knew I didn't have a way of tracking it down. But somebody actually, the last day that I called Kia, the guy said, and I had made up my mind, I prayed, Father, you know what I'm going through. I'm just going to rest in your love. I'm just going to rest in who you are. I'm just going to rest in all that you are doing for me. And I just called that company that day and that night. And the guy said, well, I'm just going to read all the notes. I was like, okay. And I just sat back and said, okay, I'm just going to put you on speaker. And I kept doing what I was doing, whatever I was doing that day. And he said, well, ma'am, the title's been sent to Cleveland. And I'm like, what do you mean it's been sent to Cleveland? I know it was sent to Columbus. You mean another title has been sent? He said, no. I have a note here saying that Columbus actually sent it to Cleveland. And it's on East 9th Street. And I didn't care which one they sent it to. I just wanted to be here. And so it was already after 4:30, so they were closed. And that day, I just got over anxious with the excitement. And I called you, Reverend Andrea, and I called your husband, and it was like, I just don't know what to do if it's not here, what to do next, because they've already given me the run around for 2 months.
Sherry, the thing, when you surrendered to God and stopped fighting, that's when the situation manifested. I mean, you've been working all along to get the job done.
But I thought I had actually surrendered. But I think that just gave up. I really think that's what I did.
Well, you surrendered.
Sometimes that's what it feels like. You just say, Father, I'm just leaving this in your hands right now.
Yeah.
And I know that you were graceful throughout it, because I know that you were prayerful throughout it. And I know that what was shown is that prayer definitely works. So
it does.
And that's a big part of the whole. But the reason why I wanted to share that story was because I think everybody has to understand. With me, I'd have been so angry. I don't know if I ever could have got to that point where you were at. I would like to think that I could, but I got angry when you were telling me about it. So I know how
you know what?
that would be.
At first I was angry, but then I realized I was attracting anger from just the people on the phone. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want this coming toward me. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of just backed down and said, okay, well, it's not their fault. Even if they're trying to just keep their job or trying to keep some authority, like they got authority over me or just switching me around or not reading or doing their job, I have no control over that. So I kind of just let that go and just was in love and plead the blood of Jesus. I'm still working on that one. So plead the blood of Jesus between us and, and binding the negativity. And so I would just, just try my best, to do what I could. But yeah, you're right. When I actually just gave up and I said, okay, well, let me just call. Yeah.
Let me tell you about the metaphysical meaning of the blood. It is the life force. It is the energy. It is the vitality of the Christ.
Thank you. Everyone makes mistakes, and we're all doing the best we can with what we have and what we've been taught.
Amen.
We take risk and often go forward without all the necessary information.
Yes.
Soul work is messy. When you're working to improve your soul, it's messy.
Yes.
Things don't fit in nice, neat little boxes.
No, they don't.
Things don't turn out to be, at best, some things turn out to be, at best, less than helpful, and at worst, damaging to ourselves. Our job is to recognize it, redefine who we want to be, and forgive ourselves. This doesn't mean that we condone any negative act. We just view it in a more loving manner, like what you had to do.
Amen.
Forgiveness
Amen.
is about us. Until there is forgiveness, our hearts are held hostage. We are willing to perpetuate the pain of the original offending event. We are willing to perpetuate that pain because our heart is being held hostage. We are holding our own hearts hostage and perpetuating our own pain when we do not forgive. The act of forgiveness is about freeing ourselves from our own grip, our own belief. We must believe that we must live miserable and damaged lives because whatever has occurred, and we don't have to live like that. We have choice. And every minute we live to move to forgiveness and free ourselves and be joyous, loving, and happy people, no matter what circumstances have occurred. Our forgiveness does not require the participation of anyone but ourselves. You don't have to go up to nobody and tell them you forgive them. You don't have to go say anything to anybody. That's between you and yourself. No one has to forgive us for our transgressions, and no one has to accept our forgiveness of theirs. It's a solitary endeavor, solely for the purpose of freeing our own hearts and spirits from an unnecessary burden. It's an act of self-compassion. The path of gratitude and forgiveness is much smoother when we learn to stay in the moment. Remember, we talked about that for the last few weeks. Nothing keeps us more grounded in non-forgiveness than holding on to the past, behaviors, or events of people. You can't change the past, yours or anyone else's. You can, however, learn from the past. It has many, many lessons. To forget the past is to put our now in peril because we are doomed to relearn the same lesson over and over. Learning from the past is essential. Living in the past is fatal. What do you think of that? Living in the past is fatal. The now is the only moment that you have. It's the only time that you can do anything about anything. The regrets of the past and the fear of the future are our greatest enemies. We must be present, aware, and awake in the now, or we are not living our lives to the fullest. What do you think of that, folks? You got to be in the now. Traveling any path without putting one foot in front of the other. If we worry about our last steps, what we did in the past, we'll miss the steps that we need to take. If we worried about the step that we're supposed to be taking in the future, sometimes you'll freeze and be afraid to even move. So, you have to stay right where you are. Non-forgiveness is one of those unnecessary limitations we place on ourselves. In order to heal ourselves, it takes a great deal of depth, awareness, and diligence. We have the power to change our lives from pain and suffering to joy. Wounds can only be healed in the light. So if you have an issue, if you have something that is troubling you, you got to bring it to the light. You can't stuff it down and ignore it. If something is really causing you that much heartache and grief, you have to address it. You have to look right at it. So I've got some things here.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I think I think that was parallel or paramount for me, was with that situation, me being able to just talk it out with someone that was neutral, because everyone else that I had talked to, they were kind of, biased, but I feel like I just needed that anchor for me. And that was the reason why I called you guys.
That's
And because I had given it up, and just bringing that to the light of what the situation actually was. Even though my aunt had went through that with me, I just felt like my anchor is here with you all.
Thank you.
And at this point,
Oh my God.
That's such a blessing to us.
Oh my God.
praise God. Praise God. And I think that's where my heart was, to just share that, this experience, because I need to let go and just, let the Almighty Most High God just,
Yes.
just settle with me. And
Yes.
that's what I was doing, letting him settle with me at that point.
And when it happened, when you got that, you felt that gratitude and that gratefulness just for getting it. I mean, you would do it, but listen, if we practice every day saying thank you, this is beautiful, this is wonderful, I am blessed, and thinking of what good I can do today. What good thing can I do for the world? You'd have no grudges, because your gratefulness would create a mind-body experience so healthy that the perceived wrongs of your life would be trivialized in the grand scale of your awareness. The wrongs and hurts would become trivialized. In other words, you are starting to build spiritual muscle when you work on emphasizing that positive aspect and giving thanks and being grateful. However, most of us have issues, gratitude, and compassion, to the point we make unforgiveness seem normal. We have so much trouble with compassion because gratitude leads to compassion. Once you build a consciousness of love and gratitude and thankfulness, you're on such a spiritual high that you really start to develop compassion. But we have a problem with that, because regardless of all this spiritual high stuff that we're talking about, you still did that to me. And you still did that. And I'm not ready to let it go till you know that I know that you did that to me. And that's why we have a problem with forgiveness. We make it seem normal. People say, you got a right to be mad. If he did that to me, I would blah, blah, blah. They co-sign on that. And so now you say, yeah, I'm right. I should feel that way. And you just make yourself more and more miserable every day, blocking your good. Only real thankfulness for the very life that you live. If that's the only thing that you're thankful for, start there. Every day you wake up, you take a breath. You realize that, every 7 years there's a whole new you? Every cell in your body is replaced. You breathe without thinking about it. Your heart beats without a thought. You are a miracle. You are a walking, talking miracle. And you should be thankful for that, for the mystery and the sacredness of you just being you. Regardless of what your life is, good, bad, or indifferent, you're still an amazing creation. And if you start to appreciate just that, you're going to automatically create a condition in yourself that will bring you into alignment with such an attitude of peace that you really wouldn't want to harm anybody with word, thought, or deed. You create a condition with the wholeness of existence, better known as compassion. You take the things that you've suffered, the bad feelings that you've had, and you push them down to the bottom and you develop compassion. Are we frozen here? Can you guys?
No.
Okay. I saw Dan's picture was frozen.
No, she's not. She's just still.
Oh, wow. Dan could be a mannequin. She does that really well. The only problem with all this business of compassion is that you have to make yourself vulnerable. You have to put yourself in a position where someone can hurt you again in order to have true compassion. The same vulnerability allows you to be hurt again, but it also allows you to be intimate and connected and loved. Just like the same gift of free will allows you to make errors in judgment, it also allows you to do incredible good. Life is always a two-edged sword. The only question is, which choice do we want to give our attention to? Are we going to sit around and be miserable thinking about what somebody did to us, or are we going to choose to experience the joy? That's the parable of the Garden of Eden, the tree of good and evil, they say. Knowledge of good and evil, okay. You know, you choose. If you had no choice and you only had good, it'd be a lot easier for you. But unfortunately, you got the spiritual and you got the physical. You got to choose between them all the time. And the spiritual is a home for the ego. I mean, the physical is a home for your ego. You want to dwell over and over on what went wrong, why somebody didn't love you? Or do you want to focus on the goodness of every act of care and love you've ever been given in your life? Because you can't focus on both. You can't focus on both. You want to be open and receptive to someone who is trying to love you. But if you are thinking about that person you were dealing with who didn't love you, and that becomes your focus, the person that's trying to love you can't get through. This is how forgiveness works. That's why you need forgiveness. You can look at it as a blessing when someone does something that causes you that much pain and that much grief. It is a lesson learned. Now, when we're talking about the spiritual practices, gratitude, you have to start with things that are easy to be grateful for. We're going to work on this. I'm going to give you a couple hints on how to work with your gratitude. Start with things that are easy to be grateful for, like being alive and your physical and mental abilities. Start with the obvious. Start with 3 things on the first day as you start this. This is an exercise I'm giving you. Start with 3 things and add 1 each day. Plan a specific time to do this. Take 3 things the first day that you're going to be grateful for. Now, I suggest you do it while you're in the shower in the morning. As you're taking your shower, just focus on 3 things that you're grateful for the first day. You may not feel grateful at first, truly grateful, but as you continue to practice, you will go beyond thinking about gratitude to feeling gratitude. You will create an invisible foundation of joy and peace within yourself. You begin to train yourself to see the good in all situations. We spend much of our time focused on the negativity of the past and an apprehension of some negativity coming in the future. It takes effort to retrain our thinking to an awareness of the multitude of things you have to be grateful for. It's like an athlete training and working your muscles, like I said earlier. Years ago, I had a stroke. I guess I told you guys, you probably know about this, I've told you about it. And it caused me some mental impairment. That was the main takeaway from it. no brain damage. And see, I know all y'all saying, well, that explains a lot right there. I can see what you're thinking, Dan. Yeah, it caused a little bit of mental impairment because at the time I had really close to a photographic memory, believe it or not. I could remember anything I saw. So I relied on that memory for my job, and it helped me to be kind of like the top guy where I was. And when I went through this experience, all of a sudden I couldn't remember things. And I had to go back to work, used to being the top guy and all this and all that. And I had to go and kind of like find a new way to get things done. I had to start looking up things, looking in the files to figure out things. But I did what I had to do. And ultimately, I was just grateful that I wasn't physically impaired and that I was able to remember some things. And believe it or not, through that gratitude, I was able to keep myself kind of going and say, well, at least this, at least that, so forth and so on. And my memory gradually came back.
No, I need to the bathroom. Sorry.
That's okay. You don't have to ask to go to the bathroom. You can just go.
No, a question was asked of me. I apologize.
So that's the whole idea. You have to find something that you find so precious and so dear and so sweet that you're able to forgive. One of the things that a lot of you mothers may think of, as I say these three things, if you've ever given birth to a child, and somewhere a couple months, a month or two down the road, you and that baby make eye contact. And you know that baby loves you. And you love that baby. That is one of the most precious moments of your life. And I can't say it from a mother's point of view, but I can say it from a father's point of view. It is so precious when that child looks at you and you know, just from the eye contact, it's a loving thing. There's nothing like it in the world. Now, if you can take that feeling with you, when you're going into your forgiveness situation. And what the forgiveness situation is, you have to imagine the joy of that experience, love, and let that feeling permeate all through you. Imagine that feeling. Now, you want to do this at night. Now, in the meantime, before you go into this, what you want to do is you want to make a list of the things that are bothering you, troubling you, things that you have trouble forgiving. And take one of those things into that situation with you. Imagine that love and that feeling of that newborn. Now, for somebody else, it could be something completely different. That's just an example of the ultimate love or the ultimate good feeling you want to take in. And you take that negative situation in with you. Allow that feeling to bring up the empathy in you, the caring in you. And allow that empathy and caring to pour over that situation that you're dealing with. Remember, hurt people hurt people. Know that the negative emotions are tools of your ego, not God. Know that as long as you feel those emotions, the joy that you experience in the beginning of this exercise will be muted. Decide what you want, what you prefer, the joy or the pain. According to Neil Donald Walsh, I did read, this did come from his book, every act is an act of love. Even fear is an act of love because you fear the loss of something you love. Some acts of love are distorted acts of love, but they are based in love nonetheless. Ask the question, what hurts you so much you feel that you have to hurt me? Or what do you love so much that you're willing to hurt me for it? This will help you find understanding in that situation, and it will help you achieve forgiveness. Okay, now I found a few quotes about forgiveness. And this one that says, forgiveness is an attribute of the strong, and that's by Gandhi. Forgive is the highest, most beautiful form of love. In return, we receive true happiness. That's Robert Mueller, the one who just did the investigation. Stop acting like life is a rehearsal. Live the day as if it were your last. The past is gone and over. The future is not guaranteed. That's Wayne Dyer. And forgiveness takes place in the mind. It has nothing to do with the other person. That's Louise Hay. And this is my favorite one. Why do people persist in reliving bad relationships? Because it's a form of holding on to what they know, even if it's painful, rather than making a change to something unknown that they fear might be even more painful. And that's Jim Graham. So you have a choice. We just did a book on choice and your freedom of choice, your will and your choice. And I thought this is appropriate that we would follow it up with the idea of forgiveness and the idea of gratitude. We have a lot to be grateful for. You know, if you tried to count all the stars in the sky, if you laid out one summer night and looked at all the stars and realized the abundance of the universe, you'd realize how small that issue that you're dealing with really is. But I don't want to get all pie in the sky with it. All you got to do is just look at yourself and the blessings that you have and take the most dearest, most cherished ones with you before you go to sleep. Reflect on something, like I said, that first eye contact of love with you and your child. And just let that feeling just wash all over you. It could be just the great feeling you got when you graduated from college. Whatever feeling brings you up to that high point, your grandchild, your first grandchild, whatever it is, and you let that permeate and wash all over you. And then take one of the things off the list that you really haven't been able to forgive. And maintain that loving feeling as you look over that situation you've written down about. I guarantee you, you will change your mind about that situation because it breaks through the emotion that you have tied to that situation. Any thoughts about that, folks? Okay, I'm your something.
Hey, everybody.
Good evening.
That forgiveness is a process. Sometimes you have layers and layers of hurt, and that's why it takes a while before. I mean, I had something I had to forgive, and I would think I had forgiven it, and then something would come up, and the sting would still be there. When the sting is gone, you know you have forgiven it. But the thing that I really wanted you guys to think about as I listened to everything that Reverend Jim was talking about, because we're getting ready to really get into a series on prosperity. And I think that we want to keep in mind that forgiveness, thanksgiving, and gratitude is essential when you are working with prosperity. We know that forgiveness is an emptying out, is a releasing. And we know that the universe abhors a vacuum. So when you release that negativity, you're opening the way for something marvelous to come in and rush in. And so you declare that and claim that good. And we understand that anything that you give thanks for, anything that you praise, anything that you have that deep sense of gratitude towards, it increases. So as we start to think about prosperity, because that's what we're going to do, think on those things. I would like for you guys to consider the next book that we're going to read. If you have a prosperity book that you think is really good, please shoot me an email and let me know. I'm listening to several, and in a minute, we're going to bring together a lesson combined of several different messages, because I haven't found the one that really resonates yet. I find things in this book that I like and things in another book that I like. But that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, now I just want to finish up what I was talking about with this forgiveness. I'm going back to my boss who moved to Florida, and he developed multiple sclerosis. And he's a conservative Republican, always has been, but he and I were really close friends. He wasn't just my boss, we were good friends. And when Donald Trump got elected president, the next day he called me, and he was so excited and so happy because, he really believed that. That's what he believed. You know that I have not talked to him since that day. Have not talked to him. He's called. I've not answered the phone because I refuse to talk to anyone. I had a real issue with that, and we haven't talked in over 3 years. We haven't talked in about 3 years. So, I was thinking about that today as I was going through this thing with forgiveness, and I said, my God, I can't believe that I have gotten to that point. Not just with other things, but with someone who was dear to me for like 15 years. 15-year relationship, just because, I was so resentful of a man who disrespected Barack Obama, who did things that I thought were just horrible. And I was so hurt that he got elected president that when my dear friend called me, happy that the man was president, I no longer wanted to speak to him. So I called him today.
How is Jeff doing?
He didn't answer.
Oh.
So I'm going to call him again tomorrow.
He's probably on his private yacht.
Probably on his yacht. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. He has an open invitation for Andrea and I to come down there and stay at his condo anytime we want to come. He offered me a job down there one time in Florida, but I don't know how it would work. So even though I'm talking all this talk about forgiveness, and I'm doing all I'm doing and working on it, it occurred to me that Jeff Ferreton, my good friend, I haven't spoken to in 3 years because he celebrated the election of Donald Trump.
Honey, say his whole name. Okay.
Well, they don't know Jeff Ferreton. Doesn't matter. You can look him up if you want. He's a good guy. So I just want to tell you folks that you have to examine yourself. You have to look at these things. And he's on my list of people that I am going to forgive, but really, I don't need to forgive him. I need to forgive myself for the emotion that I tied to that situation. It was nothing that he did. It was all about me. Any other thoughts?
Hey, James.
Who's that?
Sadiqa.
Sadiqa,
You know, I'm an elected member of the Democratic Party.
Uh-huh.
I work very hard to somehow have the belief in my party that we can move beyond some of the false media press that we were getting through our party. And I kept putting it all through Facebook. But, I'm just a PI. Nobody listening to me. But I kept saying it's a coercion. Russia's all on this Facebook. I could tell how the lines were going.
Mm-hmm.
And, but at the very end, when he he was even surprised that he even got to see. I'll never forget when my spirit said, you know, this is not our problem. Politics is not going to solve our problem. And you know, our problem is a spiritual functioning.
That's right.
It's nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with our economy. It's a spiritual business. And the only thing that allows me to stand up in myself, sometimes you know, especially with forgiveness, is something that you got to erect higher to allow yourself to let it go. And I had to stand up in myself and say, we made all of this up anyway.
Come on.
We're making this up. You know, it's not even real. It's an illusion that we
more of our discussion
are attaching ourselves to. That it's just a material activity of life that we engage in, have fun with. Just like I was campaigning and my councilman in my ward, oh man, if he'd tell you, Sadiqa, why are you doing this to me? You know, they said I was very combative. They called down to the border election on me and everything because I was, you know, all of that. I was like, no, you a felon. You know, you can't get in the seat. Man, we got people. This seat is reserved for people who are real leaders. You took the money and you took the bribe and you got married with the people's taxpayers' money. Well, I was all in it. And then the son came up to me. And now, see, this is when I had to deal with his son. His son came up to me and he said, why do you treat my father like that? Why do you, you know, say those things about my father, right? And then now I have to put, this is a young boy who loves his father, who's now, he's not, this is not feeling good to him to hear his father, because I was like, you did this, you did that, you shouldn't even get in the seat. I don't even know why we out here with you. You know, and he'll put up music loud and stuff to avoid me, you know. Then one day when his son came over, his son was able to peel off all the personality, because you got to be really into the personality department when you're in the politics. And so his son was telling me that, and I said to his son, I said, you know what? You got a good father. I switched it. Now I got to be real. That's just the politics. I said, we do this in politics. This means nothing. And I even told him, I said, if God be for you, who can really be against you? I'll just be babbling. And his son started smiling, felt relief that she's not really like adamant about it. Dad, this is just a show. And that's when everybody on his team said, we see the real person in you, Sadiqa. We don't see that personality in you that is driving a person insane because of the things that they did in their past, and that you making them suffer in the seat that they want to get back in today. We got your number. So my holler and my scream kind of bellowed out and made his campaign even stronger, because then people were able to say, I'm going to forgive him. Okay. I'm going to forgive, even though he took out $8,000 out of our community, and he might be, you know, doing some lying. I'm just going to forgive him. Every felon deserves a better chance. And I said, but that's a precious seat.
I think I agree with your first opinion, but I'm not going to get into that. Does anybody else have any thoughts or comments about forgiveness as we're getting down to the last 10 minutes here? Anybody?
I have something. You spoke earlier and you said that you have to forgive yourself first.
Yes.
For me, I have to forgive that other person or that other situation. Once I deal with that, then I can work with myself and pull myself together, because I find that if I don't do that, that situation keeps coming at me. So I got to kind of forgive it and just let it go and leave it out there in the ethers, wherever it is.
That may work for you.
Work on me.
Yeah, because, you know, the idea is, if you can forgive yourself in this situation, if you can say, You know, that person did something horrible to me, and I forgive myself for thinking about doing something horrible to them. I didn't do anything. You know, I cut them out of my life. I ignored them. I gave them the stink eye. Whatever I did, I didn't do what they did. I forgive myself for doing that because I did not act like a child of God and demonstrate love. I did not reflect God's love toward them. So I forgive myself for that. Now, why did I act like that? Because you always have to ask, what was it about that situation that made that person, in this case it's me, act like that? That person act like that because that person was hurt. And I understand that person, me, was hurt. And I forgive that person who was hurt. Now let's go to the other person. What made them act like that? Hurt people hurt people. I know that. So something's obviously hurting them. There's some kind of fear in them. I forgive them because I know there's something that they love that they're afraid of losing. There's something that they fear. That's why they act like that. Because you're either going to love or you're going to fear. You see, you're either going to be with God or you're going to be with the world of effects. That means you're subject to fear, you're subject to negativity, you're subject to all that because you're listening to clues from the world of effects, i.e. your ego. Because the ego is going to always try to protect you. Even when you don't want it to protect you, it'll jump out in front. It's like one of them helicopter mamas. It'll jump out in front and sabotage your relationships because I knew someone looked just like her to act like that. You talk just like somebody that I can't stand. You know what? I knew a guy that was a Republican once, and he was horrible. You're a Republican, you're horrible too. That's the ego likes to delineate, draw lines, and put you in boxes, in categories. We're all individual reflections of God. So, you know, well, what's the matter, Teddy? Go
Laughing at you.
Huh?
I said nothing, just listening to you, and it's the truth.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I amused you.
You gotta laugh at this, man.
You know what we do? I mean, I'm not saying anything that I haven't done.
Okay.
I mean, and if we all are honest with ourselves, if we examine our lives, we all do this. I knew someone looked just like it. I remember a girl looked just like her, and she did this and did that.
Didn't like her name.
I'm just saying, I've been there, done that.
Yeah, we all do that.
So that's why I was laughing.
I understand she doesn't do any of that stuff. She doesn't do any of that. And you know what? She forgets I've been married to her for over 25 years. Go ahead, Reverend May.
One thing that really hurts, and I've heard it with the other young lady, and I'm hearing it from Dan, and it's probably some others in here. Nothing hurts so much as hearing a lesson in forgiveness, and you experience something later on from the very person who's giving you these lessons in forgiveness. And yet you can't really understand why they're doing this. And then you get to a place where you really want to, Dr. King says that you find a person that has a lot of fear they can't love. Right. Because, you know, it's you know, the scripture says that God didn't give us a spirit of fear. But yet when they feel that there's something that you can't do for them, or you're going to take away from them, or you don't let them have control, whatever it is, they themselves can't even forgive themselves. So when you talked about in the beginning that we need to find a way to forgive ourselves, we really do. Because if you cannot do that, you're never going to forgive anybody else. Because you don't really know the feeling that it takes.
True.
To do that. You don't know the feeling of relief that you have when you let it go and let God. You don't get that, so you don't know how important it is to someone else. But when it comes to somebody that you respect and that you've heard this, now we're listening to you, and you've given us a story and all these things, and so we rejoice in getting this. We know that it's real. We believe in you. So in a situation that we would have a reaction with you, and it was not one of forgiveness, would be hard to take.
Yeah.
Because we believe in what you're saying. We believe that it was emotional for you to go some of these things, go through some of these things. And last year, I came across 3 a.m. in the morning where God told me to go to Cleveland, and because I was talking about this same person, and it's in politics now, doing the same thing, even worse. And I'm saying, man, with some kind of way we got to get him out of here. You know, but God is saying to me, T, go to Cleveland. You go there. You can get it together there faster than you can get it here. And give a presentation or a vigil on love and peace. And I was still in this place about my husband. And I felt like if I just take this train ride to LA, I'll be okay. You know, and I did that. And a whole lot of things happened that I could not have a good time. And then when I got back here, some months later, he came back to, you still didn't do what I asked you to do. I got this admonishment. And I had to forgive myself for not listening to God, because he said to me, you are the one that's saying that I am omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Do you think this individual has more power than me, or is in power at all? And I had to forgive myself for even thinking such thoughts. You know, I mean, it was just that raw. Why do you keep coming to me about this individual when you say that I am the power?
Yes.
I had to get myself together in order to get together to do what I did in Cleveland. But when you have people that you respect and that bring out these things to you, and you're looking up to them, and we always have to be careful when it's coming from us that we're living it and doing it, because when we don't express it, it really hurts the people that has a challenge, and we don't give that out to them. And I can hear it, and it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do when you've reached up and you've respected and you've embraced, and which is another reason why we have to understand everybody has a humanness that they're dealing with. Not everybody's going to be where they need to be, but it still hurts. And so sometimes when we get to that time, we do have to forgive ourselves. But even giving that individual any power, giving them any thought of our time, what we're going to do instead is just say, God, go before me and just bless that person. Maybe they can't come to me and ask forgiveness, but I'm going to lift them up to you. I'm going to let them go and let the Christ in you. And I'm going to salute the Christ in them, because I'm not willing to let anybody do me out of any good thing coming to me, fooling around with what they did and the nonsense they behold.
Absolutely.
I'm
That
done.
is true. So right.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's look at time to close.
No, that's something I got to say.
Okay.
Before you go, Andrea,
Yes, ma'am.
you were talking about a book. I have a wonderful book for prosperity by Catherine Ponder. I'm sure you're familiar with it, called Open Your Mind to Prosperity.
Okay.
And it coincides with what we had been talking about before in this previous lesson, because you do have to pray yourself through.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you. I
One thing.
I wanted to ask everybody, please, if you haven't subscribed, we're trying to build our ministry. If you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, please subscribe and like our videos. Also, if you are planning on going to the fellowship that is this Saturday, please go on Facebook and indicate that you're going. I got like 3 pitiful people sitting there, not pitiful people, but just 3 little people, I think, saying that they're coming. And I would really appreciate if you would just indicate that you're coming, because it builds energy. We're moving into another level, and I'm really going to want to start building momentum and energy at this point. So did anyone want to say anything before we close in prayer?
Yes,
How
Yvette,
do I subscribe to YouTube?
Well, when you click on one of our videos, it'll take you right to our YouTube channel, and it's a subscribe button right under the video. Yep.
So I would just go to James and Andrea Graham, and then
if you look on YouTube underneath Eves of Spirit, if you went and searched Eves of Spirit,
okay,
Reverend James and Andrea, it probably will show up.
Okay. I'm usually on there for gardening stuff.
Okay, Andrea, I just wanted to, before we exit, send up some additional prayers for Ella Louise. She went back into the hospital today.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yes. Okay. Is it anything else before we
Who went back to the hospital today?
Ella Louise.
Mm-hmm.
Eloise.
Ella
Louise, Cleveland.
Ella Cleveland.
Yes.
Ella. Oh, okay.
Ella?
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
Cleveland. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks for the info.
Anything else before we close? I'm going to ask Reverend May Thompson to please close us out in prayer.
Father, we're thankful for this night. We're thankful for this lesson. We're thankful for all the participants. And we are thankful and grateful for Reverend Andrea and Reverend James Graham for these sessions, the study that they've gone through to prepare us for these presentations. We send love and blessings to the very place that they will have their fellowship this weekend. Let your angels prepare to praise and bless it, and bless everyone that comes and every seat they occupy. We're thankful for this positive attitude and this willingness to let God and let go for whatever reason we need to do. We want you to know that we are willing to work with it. So, Father, we know that no matter what we have done and don't do, you are not through with us yet.
Amen.
So just help us, and we just call on the Spirit just to lift us up to where we can really see where we are and where we need to be and where we're going.
Yes.
And so, Father, I know that we all will have a blessed evening and night. And for this, I say in the name of Jesus, so be it, and good night.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
God bless all of you. Thank you for coming.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea.
Yes.
Also, when they go to Facebook, they should share it. If they share it with their friends, it opens up more.
Yes, just like and share. We just want the energy, because a lot of people that come to our fellowships, they're not doing anything on Facebook. So, but it's just the energy that we're trying to generate. We've gotten responses, people that's coming, but if you look on Facebook, you don't see it. So we're just trying to generate that energy.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I just enjoy you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
God bless you guys.
Is that at 11
I made it, Andrea.
What time is that Saturday?
You see you, Sika. What you say?
What time is it for Saturday?
It's at 11 o'clock. We're 11 o'clock. It's going to be Reverend Roberta. We're going to have Lisa. We're going to have Sue Lisa Harmon. And it's all about the mind, body, and spirit. And we have a testimonial. It's a surprise testimonial.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, we got a lot of activities.
Okay. All right.
God bless everybody.
Bless you as well.
Bye.
Good night.
Yes.